Welcome to Xcode and this brief 5-minute tutorial from iosconsultancy.co.uk. In this short video, I aim to give you a brief walkthrough of the basics of Xcode. This isn't a deep and thorough explanation of Xcode, it's more an introduction for beginners and helps them get started with the tutorials on our website and other websites around the world. Xcode's split into 4 major parts. You have the toolbar at the top, the sidebar on the left, the sidebar on the right, and the main editor window. We'll take each of these in turn. The toolbar has many toolbar items. These are customizable in the Xcode preferences. By default, you have a start, stop, scheme, and breakpoint items on the left, editor changes, toolbar visibility, and a link to the organizer on the right. The Run button runs the application. If you press and hold it, you're given other options. The Stop button stops any running applications. Changing schemes and targets are done with this drop-down. The breakpoints can be enabled and disabled like so. Across the right hand side you have 3 types of editors: Standard, Assistant and Source Code. Standard lets you edit most things as Xcode intended. Assistant shows related files on the right hand side. And the third view, when your project is under source control using either Subversion or Git, this shows you previous revisions. These 3 items here hide and display the certain parts of the Xcode window. This enables the right hand sidebar, this enables the left hand sidebar, and this enables the bottom panel that has your debugging tools. Showing and hiding the organizer can be done here. On the left hand side is your left hand sidebar. There are a few tabs across the top of this. Let's take you through each in turn. The first is your file manager and shows all the files in your current project. You must note, the files on the left hand side are not an exact representation of the file system. It's an Xcode virtual file system. These yellow folders, they're not folders, they're Xcode groups. The second tab shows you your class hierarchy. If you have lots of subclasses and parent classes, these will show here. You can also jump to methods. The third tab lets you search, find and replace in your entire project. The fourth tab shows any errors or warnings that are currently in your application. The fifth tab shows threads and shows stack traces when you're running your application. The next tab shows any current breakpoint you have enabled. Enabling a breakpoint shows it here. You can edit, delete and add breakpoints from this view. And the final tab shows any recent activities on your application's project. The right hand side toolbar gives you access to settings for files and documentation. If you click something in your code, you will receive the documentation for that selected item on the right. Down the bottom hand side are 4 tabs. You have a file template library, a code snippet library, an object library, and a media library. Code snippet library gives you access to pieces of code that are handy. Some are bigger than others. The object library gives you access to things that come in handy when you're designing interfaces. And the media library gives you access to your movies, pictures and music in your project. The editor in Xcode 4 is very powerful. There's autocomplete, suggestions, and corrections all built in. Let's go to a simple code file and add a new property. Note the autocomplete. Xcode understands I'm going to type strong and offers it as an option. It also knows about non-atomic, and when I close it knows I'm finished with the property bracket properties. When I type UI, it shows every class and type that has UI on the front. If I type L, it gives me label, which is what I'm looking for. Tab completes. That's an example of autocomplete. Another example of this is here. Application responds to the following options. Pressing escape shows autocomplete. We can scroll through. If we're not sure what a method does, we can show the documentation. And when we're happy with one, select it. These balloons are placeholders. You can tab through them, change things, and close things like this. Depending on the file you have open depends on the type of editor you're given. For example, code files use this editor. Editing your project file looks like this. And changing an info plist file looks like this. But what about these storyboards? Storyboards are a way to show your entire application view cycle graphically. This simple application has a tab bar controller with 3 tabs. The third tab has a navigation controller with 2 table views and a modal view controller with a button. All this is done on graph paper with drag and drop. Say we wanted to add another button or text field to this view here. We double click, go to our object library, find what we want to add, and drag it on. Resize as we need fit. Use the inspectors to change anything we require. Change classes, dimensions, and connections. Xcode comes with a suite of powerful tools. You don't need an iOS device to develop at first. You may want to run it in the simulator. This can be done by pressing Run in the top left hand corner when iPhone Simulator is selected. I hope this has been a good introduction to Xcode 4 for you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to comment just below this video, or head to our forums to ask our community. Thanks for listening.